What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Anything Goes Renegade podcast. I'm your host, Demetrius Smith, and today we got another episode for you. We're going to talk about the topic of spiritual bypass, and we're going to find out if spirituality is harmful or helpful to someone who's dealing with, with trauma or any emotional problems. And we're going to find out what a spiritual bypass is and learn something from it. And then I'm going to give you my opinion on how do I feel about this particular term. And it should be a good episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. And we're going to get right into it. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be talking about spiritual bypass, and here it is. A spiritual bypass or spiritual bypassing is a tendency to use spiritual ideas and practice to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished development tasks. The term was introduced in the early 1800s by 1980s by John Wellwood, a Buddhist teacher and psychotherapist, a clinicalist and pastoral psychologically have identified both beneficial and detrimental manifestations of behavior that could be described as spiritual bypass. American psychologist John Wellwood came up with the term in 1984 after noting that some people, by resorting to spirituality to avoid difficult or painful emotions or challenges, tended to suppress aspects of their identity and needs and stall their emotional development. Charles Whitfield later used the term in recovery literature. Some clinics do not necessarily regard spiritual bypass as unhealthy when it's utilized as a temporary approach to coping with acute stress or an intense spiritual emergency. Furthermore, some researchers have argued that certain behaviors labeled as spiritual bypassing may simply be a noble and even inevitable stage of any approach to spiritual development. On the other hand, when spiritual bypass is used as a long-term strategy for ignoring or suppressing unaddressed mental health issues, negative consequences can include the need to excessively control others and oneself, shame, anxiety, and negative thinking, emotional confusion, exaggerated tolerance of inappropriate behavior, codependence, compulsive kindness, obsession or addiction, and spiritual narcissism. Blind allegiance to the charismatic teachers and disregard for personal responsibility. In cases where it is deemed detrimental, spiritual bypass may be addressed with various forms of psychotherapy, including focusing and motivation interviewing. Although there is little evidence on which to best treatment aside from anecdotes and individual cases reports. Okay, so the concept of spiritual bypass has seen little systematic study. Existing research has been limited by relatively homogeneous sampling, and there is a need for more cross-cultural studies to provide a more global perspective and explore the concepts relevance to diverse population. So it seems to me that we are always looking for a reason, or to say, oh well, this person is too much into spirituality, and that's why they're acting like this, not realizing that there will be some things in this world that we ain't gonna be able to explain. Like, you ain't gonna have no idea why this person is acting erotic or unusual or anything of that necessary. Now here's what I suggest you guys do. I wouldn't mind. I would advise you guys to go and search what spiritual bypass is. Look for other studies if there are any. Do that. I only bring this to your attention. I've already studied some of it, but as I've learned, and from my experience, that you really can't label a problem. You really can't label someone's behavior. You could call it anything you want, but that's not necessarily the truth nor the root cause of someone's behavior, because you would not know. And I believe that's where he kind of failed at, in my viewpoint. I believe that's where he failed at, in my viewpoint, because he's trying to use psychology to understand. How can I say? He's trying to use psychology and put the blame on them being too involved into spirituality, which defeats the purpose. Because when you get involved with spirituality, it ain't about avoiding your emotions or the shit that you went through. In a lot of spiritual circles, we do recommend that people go see a therapist right along. Like, for instance, if I'm like Reiki healers, we always suggest that you go see a therapist or a doctor too. Why don't we see you healing? Because that goes hand in hand. Or you could do like some journaling, working, or whatever. Or you can work those painful memories and all that stuff out yourself, and not avoiding it, not try to push it down, because eventually it's gonna come back up. It's gonna eat you alive, and you be like a walking zombie. You're not dead, but you spiritually dead. Like, your soul is dead because you allow something to eat something within yourself. Something of that nature. But like I said, I would suggest that you guys research it for yourself, spiritual bypassing, and you come up with your own opinion about it, and we'll go from there. All right. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? Are you passionate about a favorite subject matter or a message that you want everyone to listen to, but you don't have any of the equipment or have no idea where to begin? Well, look no further than Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Do not worry about any extra equipment, guys, because Anchor's creation tools allows you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. To get started, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm. That's ANCHOR.FM. Again, to get started, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm. That is ANCHOR.FM. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Anything Goes Renegade Podcast. And I would like to give a big shout out to everybody who's been down with me since day one. Thank you to everyone, especially if you're new here. Thank you guys for listening into my podcast. Thank you for sharing my podcast, because you guys do my heart some good. Thank you guys so much for checking in. And remember what I say. Anything that I say on this podcast does not mean the truth. It just means my opinion on different subjects. And also, please go ahead and research what spiritual bypass is. Research until you form your own opinion about it, whether you believe that this is one of those things where this person don't understand, or whatever. But anyway, I'll catch you guys in the next episode on the flip side. Deuces.